In the heart of West Africa, a story is unfolding that few could have anticipated, and yet many will one day point to as a turning point in how the world thinks about progress, sustainability, and leadership. Ibrahim Traoré, the young and fiery leader of Burkina Faso, has taken a bold step that combines innovation, environmental consciousness, and national pride. News that a bridge, built not of conventional steel or concrete, but from recycled bottles, is emerging under his leadership has shocked audiences across the globe. For many, it is a symbolic moment. For others, it is a practical demonstration that Africa is not only catching up, but is rewriting the rules of development on its own terms. The very idea that something as fragile and overlooked as discarded plastic bottles could become the foundation of a lasting piece of infrastructure raises immediate questions. How is it possible? What does it mean for engineering standards? How does such an idea resonate within a country where people are fighting for better living conditions? But for Traoré, the project is about more than simply connecting one side of a river to another. It is about showing his people, and the world at large, that even the so-called waste of society can be transformed into a foundation for progress. It is about empowerment, and it is about a message that Africa will not remain trapped in the old systems dictated from outside, but will instead craft its own path. Observers across the world, from scientists to policymakers, have been fascinated by the technical aspects of the project. Engineers explain that recycled bottles, when treated, compressed, and properly reinforced, can provide remarkable strength and durability. Combined with innovative binding agents and structural designs adapted to local conditions, the bridge stands not as a gimmick, but as a testament to what can be achieved when creativity is allowed to flourish in environments often dismissed as resource poor. The irony is clear. What is often considered waste in the West becomes a building block for the future in Africa. Yet the shock this project has generated is not only technical, it is deeply political. For decades, Africa has been viewed through a narrow lens, as a continent perpetually dependent on aid, on foreign contractors, on external validation for its steps forward. By showcasing a bridge built with something as unglamorous as recycled bottles, Traoré has subverted that narrative. He is saying that development is not defined by how much foreign currency is borrowed or how many multinational corporations are involved, but by how much local ingenuity can be harnessed to solve real problems. It is a declaration of independence in the most unconventional of ways. For ordinary citizens of Burkina Faso, the project is already a source of pride. People see their discarded bottles, once a symbol of environmental degradation, being transformed into something that can literally carry the weight of cars, motorcycles, and people moving across the river. This transformation of waste into opportunity has sparked conversations in villages and towns about recycling, about valuing resources, and about the dignity of local solutions. In a society where people are often told that only imported solutions can work, this bridge stands as a rebuttal. It is an African answer to an African challenge, made possible not by outside dictates, but by the imagination of its own people. Global reaction has ranged from curiosity to admiration, and in some quarters, skepticism. There are critics who argue that such symbolic projects cannot replace the need for heavy infrastructure development. They caution that bridges built with recycled materials may not withstand the test of time or meet international safety standards. But supporters counter that every form of innovation begins with experimentation. The Wright brothers, when they first took flight, did not build jumbo jets. Traoré's bridge may be unconventional, but it represents a vital first step toward integrating sustainability, innovation, and accessibility in African infrastructure. It is proof of concept on a national stage, meant to inspire not only Burkina Faso, but the continent at large. What cannot be ignored is the environmental dimension. Plastic waste is one of the greatest challenges of our age. Across Africa, discarded plastic bottles clog drainage systems, pollute rivers, and choke ecosystems. By turning this waste into construction material, Traoré's project is tackling two crises at once: the need for sustainable infrastructure, and the need to reduce environmental degradation. If replicated widely, this approach could not only clean up landscapes, but also save millions of dollars in construction costs, freeing governments to invest more in schools, hospitals, and local industries. Another layer of significance lies in the cultural and psychological impact of the project. Africa has for too long been the recipient of narratives imposed from the outside, that it is poor, incapable, backward, dependent. By taking something that represents one of the continent's biggest challenges, plastic waste, and turning it into a symbol of progress, Traoré is reframing the African story. He is telling young Africans that they need not wait for solutions to come from abroad. They can invent, adapt, and lead. And in doing so, they can shock the world, not by mimicking Western models, but by pioneering new ones. International media outlets have seized on the story. Headlines speak of Africa's bottle, bridge, and Burkina Faso's bold experiment. Analysts compare it to moments in history where leaders dared to challenge the status quo with simple yet transformative acts. For Traoré, the symbolism is intentional. He understands that leadership is not only about governance, but also about creating moments that capture the imagination. In a world where Africa is too often associated with crisis, he wants his country to be associated with creativity, resilience, and vision. Yet the road ahead is not without challenges. Questions about durability, scalability, and replicability remain. Engineers will need to monitor the bridge closely over time, testing how it withstands seasons of rain, heavy usage, and natural wear. Policymakers will need to evaluate whether such projects can be integrated into national development plans. And citizens will need to balance their pride in the innovation with the patience required for it to be refined and perfected. Still, even if the project remains one of a kind, its impact is undeniable. It has sparked a global conversation about sustainable development, about reimagining waste, and about the power of local leadership to shift perceptions. And perhaps that is the greatest shock of all, that something so seemingly small, so humble, as a bridge made of bottles could carry such immense weight in the discourse of global development. For Ibrahim Traoré, the bridge is more than infrastructure. It is a metaphor. It represents the crossing from dependency to independence, from waste to value, from despair to hope. It is a connection not only between two sides of a river, but between the Africa of yesterday and the Africa of tomorrow. And in that crossing lies the potential for a revolution, as some have begun to call it, where recycling, resilience, and resourcefulness redefine what progress looks like. As global leaders look on with surprise, and as Burkina-based citizens watch their bottles become beams of progress, one message rings out clearly. Africa is not waiting. It is building. It is recycling. It is innovating. And in doing so, it is reshaping how the world understands the possibilities of human ingenuity.